Welcome, traveler. Get ready to level up in fantasy football. Join Mike and Evan and a special guest every week as we break down some of the most important topics in fantasy football, the NFL, and help you win dynasty championships. Let's get into it.
Heidi-ho, everybody. Welcome into the RPG podcast. Mike is a little delayed tonight. He's getting a little bit older. That dad life is starting to get to him. But we just want to thank everybody for coming on here. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I would normally be sleepy from being a dad, but now I'm sleepy because I'm at a work conference, so I'm just up all night grinding. I'm definitely not playing NCAA until 1 a.m. That would be irresponsible and silly. But in other news, Virginia Tech is back-to-back-to-back national champions.
There you go. Gotta love a natty.
Yep. In case you don't notice, there's somebody other than me and Evan here today. And we are joined by a very special guest, a dear friend of the show, Ken Flott. Ken, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me on, having this nobody giving a chance to just yammer on and on. You'll find that, I'm half Sicilian, so I can talk for hours. If you need to tell me to shut up, just tell me to shut up.
I'll just use the little admin notes to just mute you whenever you start going too long. But no, we're really excited to have you on. Thank you for joining us. Tell the people a little bit about your background, things you've worked on, and then like where they can find you if they want to find more of your work.
Cool. Yeah. So I've been playing fantasy football for about 10 years now. My background professionally was in the technology world. I started in technology. I was the assistant to Ray Kurzweil. You should look him up, Kurzweil. He invented text-to-speech is what he did. He did a number of other things as well. He was a genius. I don't know why he chose someone who's, horrifying looking like I am and also as dumb as I am to be his assistant, but I learned an awful lot from him. I was with this company off and on for about 14 years, and that was in the educational technology field. The software we had helped people with their learning difficulties and people who had blindness as well, so sighted and unsighted computer users. Which is what it's a recent post of mine. I've recently reposted it. It's a fantasy football learning and earning, and the idea behind that, and that's on Medium, is that there are some opportunities I think that creators are missing out on to capture as large an audience as possible, because according to the education world, about 20% of people have an undetected learning difficulty, like 20%, right, of all learners. That's a huge amount. Previously, it was somewhere around 10 to 13%, but 20%, 1 in 5 people have some type of learning difference or learning difficulty. And if you can imagine the creators that are out there creating stuff, whether it's in print, whether it's on video, whether it's graphs, right? Those wonderful graphs that we see all the time. For some learners, some of those things are really difficult for them to pick up on, and they're kind of missing out on, some subscribers, I should say, to subscribe to their services and websites. So the idea behind that particular that article that I wrote was like, here are the learning categories, shall we say, and here's how you can address some of those things with the content that you're creating. That came along after the past couple of years. It took me about a year to write that. I put that out there and got some good response to that, and hopefully that's going to help some people have introduced them to be able to have more access to more content in the fantasy football world. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason we do this show, Evan and I, we make about 6 pennies every show. But really the opportunity is to spread joy and have a good time and just get another perspective. So if you could send us the link to that, we'd love to read it and then try and find other mediums to spread joy.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Thank you. Hopefully it'll help some people. So
yeah, cool. All right. We are going to dive into the AFC East this week. But first.
And now it's time for news and notes.
All right, so moving into some things that happened around the league, we have the Cam Akers signing. Does that really mean anything to you?
No.
Probably not. Yeah, okay, sounds about right. Moving along, we have some offensive lineman signings by the Broncos and the Vikings. The Vikings one really interesting with Darrisaw to me because of the fact that now they lock up Justin Jefferson, they lock up Darrisaw, so now you have 2 stalwarts on the offense. to be able to go with J.J. McCarthy long term. And then we got Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips placed on the PUP, which training camp PUP is a little bit different than in-season PUP or preseason PUP and all of that. But it is important to notice, because if both of those players are out come week 1, you're going to have a very juicy matchup in the early portions of the season, because that defense for the Dolphins has been absolutely gutted. If you lose 2 more pass rushers, along with Wilkins, moving on from him in the offseason, could be up for games that are just complete shootouts. So it could also work out for those Dolphins offensive players. And then we got Hawkinson as well, supposedly ahead of time on his recovery. Yeah, what a surprise. Never would have guessed that. And then Kenny Clark is also a really interesting one. He was just extended by the Packers. If you look at his cap hit, it's very front-loaded, which is really interesting, because it makes me think that they're also going to front-load Jordan Love's contract to be able to then have the cap space to be able to utilize later on in that contract for the wide receivers, because you look at the wide receiver room and they're extremely young. A lot of them are rookie contracts. A lot of the skill positions, period, are rookie contracts. Except for running back, which we know is the old man and Josh Jacobs that has been around the league for about as long as Mike and I have been born.
And is he still like 26?
Yeah. Still a young man. Still younger than both of us.
But he's 26.
Yep. Any of those news and notes fitting the fancy of anybody here?
Well, I think so. If you want to go with an age thing, I think Josh Jacobs is still younger than Velus Jones came in the league. I think he came in the league at like 34 or something like that.
Oh man, Ken, who's older, you or Velus Jones?
Well, actually, Velus Jones was a year ahead of me in high school.
Okay. No, I really want to anchor in on 2 things. First, the Amari Cooper deal. So they gave him $20 million guaranteed, $5 million in incentives. This shows that they're kind of locking him up and like keeping him around the building, which there was some whispers in the offseason. Is he going to go? Is he not going to go? Ken, I want to talk to you from a dynasty standpoint. What would you be willing to buy Amari Cooper for if you're a contending team?
So interesting, because I have him on one of my dynasty best ball teams. I got an offer this week that was it was Mike Williams and a second-round pick. And I'm not interested in Mike Williams or a second-round pick next year, because just this is from a dynasty and also from a best ball strategy perspective, is this particular, though these leagues are total points, so it's not head-to-head, right? So it's probably – so I'd prefer to bank those points, being that he's probably in the 1,100 to 1,300 yard range. I mean, if you think – so if you think Deshaun Watson figures it out and has at least a better year, right? It figures out something. And if all the Browns fans feel that the Browns are going to or if you feel the Browns are going to the playoffs, then that's going to include Amari Cooper, and I'd rather bank those points than I'm not interested in Mike Williams. Since it's been 4 years now since he's been relevant at all. So that was a no for me. To buy him, if I felt my team was contending for a top 3 spot, which this team might be, I'd give up my 112 for him for sure, because I can bank those points, right? So to me, it's about grabbing those points. Plus, those points are not going to my opponent, so I'll take that off his board.
Okay, so you'd offer a late first for him. I think that's about appropriate. I think
that's because if you want somebody, go get them, right? And if you feel like that's overpaying, but you're still getting the player that you want, and if you believe in that, well, then that's your mistake to make. If it's a mistake, if not, then win-win for you. Then 112 is 112, but those points, bank those points.
We have a great comment from Bradley that Evan hid. Joe Biden is younger than Velus Jones.
That's fair.
Then this is the other thing I wanted to anchor on. Dolphins start fast but get figured out. So with their 2 premium edge rushers starting on the PUP, maybe they start slow. Even if they are playing, they're not going to be a full version of themselves. Bradley, come check us out on YouTube at FFRPG Pod. But if they start fast, now you get those points. And from a dynasty or redraft perspective, you would rather have the early points, and then maybe you can sell them high as you see the defense starting to improve, rather than going the other way around where somebody starts slow and then you get a buy low opportunity. Give me the points early, give them to me now, and then I will have options to offload.
That's it. That's an excellent point. And for real football, the Dolphins have to figure out their defense. That's all there is to it.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about that during our betting content at the end, but let's get into the...
Let's get into the meat and potatoes.
All right, so here we go again, another meat and potatoes section. We're going to start off with the Fantasy Calc. All right, so we've been partnering a little bit with Fantasy Calc, doing some trades here to try and walk through a little bit. Mike, we have a couple listed in the show notes here. Do any of these pop off to you?
Yes, I would love to talk about the Devon Achane or 106. So in a perfect world, this is the one. Is this the 106 this year?
Yeah, we're going off of this year. We already kind of know the players that are going in that range. There's some variations.
Yeah. So the real thing with this is, can my team compete now, or do I need a running back? You're not getting a running back better than Devon Achane at the 106. But if your team's not competing this year or next year, like there's going to be some committee stuff. There's a chance that he loses value. You could just bank a Neighbors, a Bowers, a Dunze, even a Drake May in a super flex league. Like there are opportunities for you to just take somebody that's going to hold their value a little longer. So I think using the construction we've used for this before. So for Ken, you are an ascending team. You missed the playoffs last year barely, but you think you're ready to make the push. I think Achane might be the kind of player that you take and you make that push. So if I am ready to send the chips in, give me Achane over the 106, which feels gross.
Yeah, I mean, being where we are with running backs, we'll get another infusion of talent into the pool next year. But if you're sitting there this year, then I'd have to keep the running back, even though the 106 is. You can start doing the what ifs and maybe I can grab that 106, pair it with something else, and scale up to somebody else for maybe even a better running back or a better wide receiver, something to make up for that. Mm-hmm. But if you've got that. Though, if you've got that in hand, I would keep that for now, because you said descending, and you've got to possibly make a playoff one. I think that would be something I'd keep as opposed to the 106.
Yep. Evan, I'm not going to let you talk about Achane because I know you love him. I'm going to make you talk about Raheem Mostert, his running mate. You're ready to push the chips in. You're ready to send it. Would you send the 212 for Raheem Mostert?
Yeah, in a heartbeat. I mean, Mostert's going to have some touchdown regression. I think it's pretty fair to say. His touchdown numbers last year were significantly higher than anybody expected. They have a lot more pieces. They're going to have to utilize the offense a little bit differently this year, but they love to get their players in motion. They love to run two backs. They love to be able to get these guys fresh on the field. Mostert has always been an efficiency back. He's always been the kind of guy that's going to average about 5 yards a carry. You're looking for those explosive plays. I absolutely love Mostert in the fact that he could potentially just boom in a week, and he's in a flex. So I will happily take that.
Let me list some of the names that are going around the 24 slot. Jalen Polk?
Nope.
Jermaine Burton?
Nope.
Troy Franklin?
Nope.
Those are the only ones that I thought I'd be able to sway you with. But all right, that settles that. And then, Ken, I want to ask you specifically, Breece Hall or the 102 if you're ready to make the push?
I'm ready to make the push with the 102. So if and it depending on needs, but if you've got that running back in hand, I would take that, because what you're going to take at depending on what the league setup is, like super flex or you're going either a wide receiver at that point, right? So Neighbors would be the one, or if you need a quarterback, you go with one of the quarterbacks. A word on that, even if it's a dynasty, even if it's a push, I don't care how good Caleb Williams is. He's still a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks traditionally, haven't. I mean, everyone looks at Stroud. Stroud's an outlier, right? Stroud is not who everyone is going to be when they're coming into the league. He's special, and I think we saw that last year. Caleb Williams might be special as well, but if I'm making a push, I've got to stay with Breece. I've got to stay with that. Or if you're going to grab. Okay, so we have to get into. Well, what did the guy do ahead of me at 1-1? What did he take?
Assuming 101 took Caleb. I mean, Caleb's been a pretty consensus 101.
I would. Yeah, so then
it's Marvin Harrison Jr. or
Marvin Harrison, or would you trade him for Breece Hall? Right? I mean, you're going to get what would you do? I'd probably keep the running back. Again, I keep going because they're hard to come by and they're hard to get too. Like trading to get like a running back, they're harder to get. People want at least in my leagues, my 8 leagues, they're asking a lot for any of those top 12 guys.
Yep. I actually just wrote an article and I pulled it up really quick to see how quarterbacks finish relative to their ADP. This is looking at redraft, but we can use it for a dynasty mindset too. If you're ready to push the chips in and see what's going to happen, among all quarterbacks that played 10 or more games, so this is even taking out the ones with injury, only 5 outperformed their ADP. And we're looking at guys like Stroud at 7, Herbert at 7, Kyler at 10, Burrow at 16. Like they did beat their ADP, but they're not the reason that you're winning a fantasy championship. So hopefully if you're ready to push the chips in, you're set at both quarterbacks positions, you're set at both wide receivers, now, or all 3 wide receivers for most dynasty leagues. And now you're going to go patch in those running backs.
Yeah, it's the one position, quarterback of all the positions, taking that step from playing against some teenagers in college. There's no teenagers in the NFL, right? So you make that next leap into the NFL. It's the one position that is probably the most difficult to learn. Mm-hmm. This stuff just flying around at different speeds, and they're masking stuff. And I mean, think about what Bill Belichick used to do to just confuse rookies, right? I mean, he was just the master of it. He knew it's like there's no way they have seen any of this stuff before. So, and there's a lot of coaches in the league that do that now. So that's why, tamp them down a little bit. It's not that the talent isn't there. The talent is there. It's just learning what you're seeing and making sure you're able to beat it.
Yeah. Evan, were there any more of these trades that spoke to you, or you want to move on?
No, I think we're able to move on. We'll talk about one of them a little bit later in the Bills.
All right. So now we're rolling into the daddies of the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills. They replaced Stefon Diggs. They added a true wide receiver 1, Curtis Samuel. They're backing up Josh Allen with Mitch Trubisky. They went and got Mac Hollins, who should move to tight end. They bolstered their offensive line a little bit. They got Chase Claypool, who should move to tight end. They got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who should move to tight end. They got Keon Coleman, who should move to tight end. They got Ray Davis, who should move to an old person's home. Like, there was a lot of pieces here where they're trying to the money ball thing where we don't need him. We'll replace him in the aggregate. They're trying to replace Stefon Diggs in the aggregate with guys like Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, and for the memes, MVS and Chase Claypool. They lost Stefon Diggs, obviously. They lost Naheem Hines, the kick returner / jet ski champion. Lost some offensive line help. They lost another kick returner. They lost my heartthrob, Gabe Davis, and they went ahead and they replaced their OC in the middle of the season. After the OC changed, we saw a really run-heavy tendency. How is that going to affect Josh Allen's fantasy upside / is the Stefon Diggs thing going to ruin his dynasty upside? Ken, what are your thoughts on Josh Allen?
So Josh Allen, based upon everything that he's got in that room, and I'll say this, and don't tase me, bro. All right, so I think they have one of, if not the worst, wide receiver core in the AFC East. Not a fan of Keon Coleman. Didn't really show much in college. I think he's like a late career Alshon Jeffrey, if you remember him. He's just like a big guy who's just going to battle for – got good hands. Congratulations. You ran across the field during the gauntlet, during the you know what I mean, during the combine. He made all the catches. Good for you, right? So congratulations. But he's coming in. They've got him listed at number 1. I don't see it. Curtis Samuel is a fantastic athlete. He's a good football player. He never stays healthy, and he won't stay healthy again this year. I'll get back to Josh Allen in a second. I think the number 1 receiver is going to be Kincaid. I think that's a good bet. I think a sneaky good pick late in drafts. You want a dart throw would be Dawson Knox. They don't dislike Dawson Knox. They like him. He's still on the roster, and he knows like everybody. And Josh trusts him as well. I think he'll, probably 40 catches, let's say. Khalil Shakir is as close to a number 1 receiver as they have. And like you said, like later in the season, after they changed the OC, look at what Shakir did. They started to trust him. In the playoff game, that catch in the corner coming back to the ball is that type of play is what they something that like Diggs was capable of doing. The kid can play. I don't know how much they're going to use him or how they're going to use him, but they need to use him because he's just going to step. I think he's going to step forward with more snaps on the field. There's going to be more opportunities for him. Josh clearly trusts him. He wouldn't have thrown him the ball in the playoffs if he didn't. So Kincaid's number one. I think the running back. Cook is the second receiver on the team. I think that's where he's going with that. And I think Josh has a tendency, like we've seen before early in career, and then again a couple of years ago, where if things aren't good, Josh starts doing stuff by himself, meaning, running when he maybe shouldn't, or maybe forcing a pass just to try and make a play. So I don't know how much you trust the new guys that are going to be there. And I think that's where Josh is going to be this year, where it's going to look like maybe a little bit of aggression. It's just like he's just trying to make stuff happen. And I think he feels it after, the success, the fame, the money, and all of it. And now I think in the back of his head, he's thinking, I've got to win a championship. Like he's putting it on himself, right? He's putting it. I think he does that. I think he does. I'm not a Bills fan, but I love Bills Mafia. I love what they do with their. I love all the stuff they do with the charities and getting behind stuff. I love that stuff. But I think Josh Allen has a tendency to, when the game is on the field, he might say and do the right things on the practice field and for prep. But when the game is on the field, he puts it into his own hands, and I just don't think they have the supporting cast there, right? So if you got 1, 2, 3, it's Kincaid, Cook, and Shakir for me there. I don't know if Coleman is going to figure it out for the typical after in the second half of the season they'll figure it out and he'll come on strong. I don't know that he's got that. So.
Yeah, instead of Batman and a bunch of Robins, we have like Superman and a bunch of just random people off the street just doing the best. Yeah. So are you comfortable with Josh Allen's price as the quarterback one in both Dynasty and Redraft?
I wouldn't no. So I wouldn't take him ahead of here's some guys I wouldn't take him ahead of. I wouldn't take him ahead of again, don't come at me, bro. Don't taste me, bro. Like that. That's an old meme, but I wouldn't take him ahead of for this year. If we're talking this year, if you want to talk dynasty, both. I wouldn't take him ahead of Lamar Jackson. I would not take him ahead of Mahomes. I wouldn't take him. How's this one? I wouldn't take him ahead of C.J. Stroud, considering what they put in place down there. They might score 40 points a game. Think about it. They just had an influx of Akers. I mean, come on, man. Sky's the limit with that.
Now they have Cam Akers.
That would put them over the top, is what
exactly. I'll fight you on the Stroud thing.
Yeah,
but I think Josh Allen's rushing floor is still so high. We talk about him doing too much, maybe forcing some passes. That also means that he's forcing the rush, which in normal leagues, which are 4-point per passing touchdown, like I'd rather have Josh Allen run for 10 touchdowns than pass for 12. So
fair.
The math check out? It does. Cool. Evan, I want to talk to you. We talked already about the wide receiver one. Do you have different thoughts about how that fills out, or do you think Kincaid's the target hog there?
I would say that he's not going to be a target hog, but I do still think that he's going to be the leading target earner. I have Kincaid slotted for somewhere around 110 targets this year, 115, 110, 115. And I think that's going to lead the team. I think it's going to be pretty well distributed after that between Shakir, between Samuel, between Coleman in the targets. It's probably going to go, if I had to guess, Shakir, then probably Coleman, then Cooks, then Samuel. And that's guessing, like I'm saying here, trying to project it out. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're expecting it. You're thinking through the reads that he usually goes through. You're thinking through the way that he goes through his progressions. Does he really make it to the third option, fourth option before pulling it down and tucking it and going? Well, usually not, because the Bills' offensive line historically has, just kind of allowed some defenders to be able to get into that backfield, and he has to just Superman like Big Ben used to do.
Whoa.
Just get off me, bro.
They got La'el Collins. They have Mac Hollins, who can stay in its tight end and block.
Yes. Gotta love that, Mike. Absolutely love it.
It's unbelievable that Matt Collins still has a job. How is that possible?
I don't know. I need his agent.
What do you honestly, like, what is he showing? It's like, yes, we've got to keep this guy.
Got to get that guy in the building.
I mean, he's like that great wide receiver 5 on a team, you know?
It's ridiculous. So we go back to if we want to discuss, same thing with the Dolphins. The Bills' defense has got to be better. They have to be better. Think about
5 years.
Yeah, and you can say this about Tua or about Mike, the coach down in Miami is like, think about this. Think about if those teams don't allow more than 20 points a game, how much easier a life those offenses would have, right?
So they've ruled during the regular season. The issue is the moment they get to the playoffs, they just forget how to play football.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
but all right, we're run up on time on this one. Let's move on to the Miami Dolphins. So talked about the Bills, Superman. They're doing their best. We have no idea what's going on. The Dolphins have 2 pairs of the Flash on either side, and then they went ahead and they added Jonnu Smith in the middle, Arthur Smith's heartthrob. They bolstered their offensive line a little bit. They signed Joe Fortson for some reason. He's a tight end, for those of you who didn't know. They traded a 2025 third to go get Jalen Wright, which if you said they used a third-round pick on Jalen Wright, people would be excited. If they say you traded a third-round pick to pick him in the 4th, now they're sad about it. And they went and took Malik Washington to bury him on a depth chart, which makes us sad. And then they lost Chase Claypool. Just devastating.
Huge loss.
Yeah. And then they changed their defensive coordinator to try and fix the building, but unless they get a surplus of talent there, I don't know how that's going to work. Probably another middle-of-the-pack defense. Let's talk about Devon Achane's redraft price. We've already talked a little bit in Dynasty. We think that he's going to be good. Are we comfortable with him? I think he's the RB8 off the board right now. Is that too high, too low, or just right?
For RB, so his physical profile is he's not a volume guy. He's never going to be a volume guy. So he's got to work with efficiency, and he'll get the opportunities to do that. And I think the head coach down there will set him up for success. Right at some point, defenses are going to have to figure out something like. I mean, can you even spy a guy that is that fast? Right? I mean, you probably can't. Right? So he's going to get his opportunities. It's just not going to be. He's not a volume guy. I tend toward volume guys than I do, guys like that, especially when you've got, Mostert and you've got Jalen Wright now down there as well, and Achane. So they're all pretty much the same back. So is it 8 to 10 touches a game? I think 8's a little spicy for me to take him there. I'd rather have either grab a wide receiver at somewhere in that territory. Or try and get a volume guy. Somebody like he's been in the news lately is like a Javonte Williams. Yeah. It's like maybe wait on him to get a guy. He'll see some volume. Probably move on from that thing. But I love the talent, but it's just like the opportunity just might not be there. And at the 8, I'd probably put him closer to the 10 or 12 just based on the opportunities that he's going to have. To me, just that efficiency of what he did last year, it's not sustainable. I don't believe it's sustainable.
Yeah. I think the yards per carry could come down, but maybe the touches come up a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Evan, I know I didn't put this on the show sheets, but would you rather have Achane in the 2nd round or Mostert in the umpteenth round?
Mostert in the umpteenth round, but I want to take both of them.
Yep.
So
just keep taking swings at this Miami offense and just see what sticks. Let's talk about the key engine that runs this offense. Clearly the best player on the team by a mile, Tua Tagovailoa. Evan, is he overrated, underrated, or just right? You can say format. You can say real life. It doesn't matter. I would just love to hear your thoughts on Tua because I don't think we've talked about this before.
Yeah, real life, he's underrated. People look at him and they crap on him all the time because he can't win playoff games, because he is a completely different quarterback on the road than he is at home. The entire Dolphins team is a completely different team on the road than they are at home. Maybe that has to do with the fact that their stadium's set up so that if you have an afternoon game, they're in the shade the entire game and the opposing team's in the sun the entire game.
Have you ever
that might actually cause a difference.
Seen a Lamborghini drive on gravel? That's the Dolphins on the road. They're just so much speed, so much like excitement, but then they're in the snow in Buffalo in December, and you're like, oh God, they can't run anymore. So you think he's underrated?
I think he's underrated from an NFL standpoint, underrated from what the casual fan looks at him for. Dynasty, I think he's slightly underrated, but I would say he's closer to just right than underrated, mainly because I'm seeing Tua as a QB that's going to get me nothing on the ground. He's going to have to be able to get the passing volume. He's going to have to be able to get the passing yards, which in the high efficiency offense, you should be able to get that. Top 2 in the league last year, if not led the league in passing yards, something around there. So you're going to be able to get those passing yards. But with that being said, you also have the injury risk now as well. We all know what happened to Tua. We've seen it at this point many, many of times. You have Tyreek's retirement eventually looming down the corridor here. We all know that that's coming as well. So yeah, if you're going to tell me that he is QB, what is he right now, Mike, coming off the board?
I just looked it up on Fantasy
16?
He is QB 16.
Look at that.
So, dynasty question. I'll ask both of you this, whoever wants to answer. Would you rather have Tua Tagovailoa and a second, or Brock Purdy?
Tua in a second. Heartbeat.
I'd probably go Purdy over Tua Tebow-Vailoa.
You just think
nothing. I got nothing on that. I got nothing for Tebow-Vailoa. I mean, come on, that's funny.
That's
Tua
good.
Tebow-Vailoa. No, nothing. All right.
We chuckled.
That's a throwaway. Only because I know both offenses are good. I think you mentioned it was pretty terrifying seeing the head injury that he suffered and the repercussions of that and he's I don't want him to run. Right, I don't want him like out of the pocket ever. Right, he's if he can stay there for the rest of his career, he is a slicer and dicer. He's what they would say it's about his accuracy or his deep balls or whatnot. Take a look. It's scoreboard. That's what we used to say on the playground. Scoreboard. He can do it. Right. He's Coach Mike likes him. That's good enough for me. Right. Coach Mike likes Purdy. That's good enough for me. Right. So that's I'm totally fine with that. I just think for what you have now is the offense that Purdy is in, and that offensive line, the talent and whatnot, I think is there for him. I would take Purdy, but Vailoa at 16, to me that seems a little low. I'd put him a little closer to 12, like a 13 or 14, somewhere in there, because who's between 12 and 16? Who's in that range?
Let me go name some of the players that are there. Let me pull this up real quick. Thank you again to Fantasy Calc. We have Dak Prescott, who should be higher. Trevor Lawrence, Jaden Daniels.
No.
Kyler Murray.
Yes.
Jordan Love, Justin Herbert.
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
So I think once we start talking about it, like 16 or 15 might be right, but it's tough
you could push him to 14, push him above Jaden Daniels, push him above Trevor Lawrence. I can make an argument for that.
I think the argument for Daniels and Lawrence is that both of them have a chance to become top 8 players. And I don't think Tua has a pathway to that outside of an outlier touchdown percentage season, which is possible with the weapons around him, but not a likely bet as opposed to the rushing floor that Daniels has. And like Trevor Lawrence could have a random touchdown because he's just dunking the ball at the goal line. Like Lawrence has the same opportunity to improve as a passer, but with more sturdiness, and we know he's the guy because of the contract situation. Real quick before we move on, I want to talk about Jalen Wright. We talked a little bit about him with, is he a 3rd-round pick? Is he a 4th-round pick? He's a 4th-round pick, but I like to be excited about him. Did a film study on him, so if you're still listening, go ahead, check out the film study over on our YouTube channel. But do we think that outside of injury, he has any path to fantasy relevance this year, or either Mostert or Achane has to go down, Evan?
No, one of the two of them has to go down for him to have a pathway to fantasy relevance this year. And it is a pathway in best ball because you are not starting him unless both of the running backs are down in a lineup league.
I might start him as a flex just for the vibes.
Okay, well, you're going to get like a 3-point game, so.
Well, we'll talk about it in October when it happens. But we got to move on to the Jets. They added some offensive line help. They finally shored up their backup quarterback. So if Aaron Rodgers goes down, they have a solution. They added Mike Williams, which, say what you will about Mike Williams, he's a better wide receiver too than anyone they had on the roster. They added some other random nonsense, and then they drafted Malachi Corley, who's Deebo Samuel to some people, but I'm tired of hearing about Deebo Samuel comps. Braylon Allen, I could do a whole segment just on Braylon Allen and how much I hate the Jets. And then they drafted Jordan Travis, who, again, shoring up the backup quarterback position. They lost Zach Wilson, which is probably an addition by subtraction. They lost CJ Uzoma, so now it's truly Tyler Conklin season. And they lost Mekhi Becton, which he was an underperforming first-round pick anyway. Let's talk about worst-case scenario. Rodgers gets hurt again. Does Wilson's ADP just it no longer makes any sense, or is he individually talented enough that he can make it happen with Tyrod Taylor again?
I'm with Tyrod Taylor. I would want them to bring back Milf Hunter to New York. I think that would be a lot of fun. I think it'd be more fun than Tyrod.
It'd be fun.
It would be fun. Not for the area marriages in the greater New York area, but I've always liked Tyrod Taylor. I want to see him get another chance. I really do. I wanted to see him, everywhere he's gone. I just holds a place in my heart for that season. Back there, it was like I had no idea who he was. Like, holy heck, this guy is good, right? And then it's just circumstances in the NFL. It just kind of doesn't. It's we're lucky that we got. Gino an opportunity, a couple of years ago. He got to show out and whatnot. It was like, because otherwise he would be stuck in the same boat like a bunch of guys, which I think is going to happen to what's his name in Cincinnati, Browning, which he's stuck behind it. Clearly he can play, but we're not going to be able to see him. So I'd prefer. And then we go back to the factor of experience is the prob. I mean, this is Salah's swan song, right? If he doesn't make the playoffs with what he's got, injuries or not, then they're done. He's done.
Yep. So Tyrod Taylor starting. You're comfortable with Garrett Wilson at his ADP, or you're uncomfortable?
Yeah, I don't think it matters to him within. You get the ball within like 3 feet of him. I mean, I could throw it to him, and he could catch that ball. And a word on Malachi Corley is it's probably just an aside, and maybe it was somebody had an observation is that Xavier Gibson was running ahead of Malachi Corley in the OTAs. Like, he had it wasn't just because he's I'm not kidding. Somebody who was there had said Xavier Gibson is running ahead of Malachi Corley at this point. That could just be a learning curve, right? Yeah. Malachi Corley, I guess he's talented. I don't know if what did he run at the combine? It wasn't like a 4.6.
He's not very fast. His whole calling card is that he's built like a running back, but catches the ball.
Well, maybe they should put him in the backfield with the 16 other running backs they have. I can't believe they did that to Israel Abanikanda. I can't believe it.
Izzy Abanikanda, Braylon Allen.
Yeah.
Two of my heartthrobs gone.
There's that the other kid they drafted was like a 3rd or 4th round.
Isaiah Davis.
Yeah, that's the one. What they should do if the Jets want to make some hay is trade Abanikanda to Dallas. Yeah, Dallas needs a back. And
any running back we care about.
Good.
Trade him to Dallas.
Kevin Harris from the Patriots. We're going to talk about him next. I'm bringing him up whether you like it or not. Kevin Harris. Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong's out in Cleveland now, but I don't think he's playing football anymore. I think he's
still technically on the roster in the same way like Evan is on the Titans roster.
That's fair. Yeah, that's
fair. Evan, I want to talk to you real quick. Is the wide receiver 2 in New York worth anything? And if so, who is it?
I mean, the wide receiver 2 in a best ball standpoint is Mike Williams, because eventually he's going to get back on the field. But no, realistically, no, it's not. Yeah. I think the better question is, Mike, do you have Breece Hall being the second highest target earner on this team again?
Ooh, let me check my projections real quick, but I think I do. So going through to the Jets.
Because it would be Conklin. You'd be looking at Conklin taking that target share away from him. You'd be looking at Mike Williams taking it away. I mean, I think we can say pretty safely it's not going to be Malachi Corley taking the lion's share as the 2 there. So
no, it is not.
So there you go. You want training camp stuff. is the drum beat. Everybody talks about the drum beat. You know who it's going to be? The number 2 target. It's going to be whoever Aaron Rodgers says it is, because that's the way he is. You know what I mean? So who is he throwing it to? Who is he talking up and that kind of thing? That's the guy you want to go after.
Yep. I actually do have it penciled in that Tyler Conklin is slightly ahead, but that's purely based off of the fact that he just perpetually gets 87 targets. And
Tyler Conklin sounds like a guy that works in IT. Is he actually a football player? Is he a real football player? Tyler Conklin, because he sounds like he's like the assistant admin guy who does the desktop apps. You call it down, it's like Tyler.
He's top 10 in the league in targets among tight ends in the last 3 years. It's just the targets have been from Zach Wilson and the ghosts of quarterback past. But yeah, I think it's going to be Breece Hall. Remember when we did our running back show and you said that Breece Hall would never catch enough passes to be fantasy relevant, and then he was the RB2.
And then it happened, and now I'm eating crow. And this coming season, he's going to go back to being below 70 targets.
I mean, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers' history. So if Aaron Rodgers is the starter, he has peppered Aaron Jones with targets over the years. Breece Hall, I will accept no feedback on this, is a better running back than Aaron Jones at any point in his career. So I think it's Breece Hall season for round 2. While we talk about it being Breece Hall season, I would just like to block off the next probably 45 minutes of our lives to just pour one out for Braylon Allen. Talented back, still 20 years old, workhorse body. If he got drafted to Dallas or Los Angeles or pick probably 28 other teams, we would be talking about how we're worried about him maybe being the starter there. And instead, he's dead. So if Breece Hall goes down, I do think Braylon Allen is undervalued in redraft because right now he's running in front of Izzy Abanikanda, and he will continue to do that because he's better. I love Izzy. I think Braylon Allen's better. The Jets just keep taking talented day 3 running backs and then putting them in a closet, and it makes me sad. Anyway, let's talk about the New England Patriots. They added KJ Osborne. They drafted they signed Chuks Okorafor, Antonio Gibson back from the dead, Jacoby Brissett back from the dead, Austin Hooper back from the dead. Like, man. But they took Drake May, number 3 or 4 overall. 3 overall. Mm-hmm. And this is the type of quarterback that can turn an organization around. Unfortunately, he's walking into a room with Pop Douglas, Jalen Polk, who they took in the 2nd round, and Javon Baker, who they took in the 4th round. So talent, these are all very good, and they have KJ Osborne, who Evan thinks is good. They have 4 wide receiver 3s and 0 wide receiver 1s. And then they also took Joe Milton, who I hope converts to tight end. They lost Mac Jones, tough, and they lost Zeke Elliott, which might actually be tough, and they lost Devontae Parker, who retired. They have the tall task of replacing Bill Belichick as a coach, and they've replaced their entire staff. I want to talk real quick about Drake May. Very talented player. I love his tape coming out. He was my quarterback 3, but I have no qualms with any of the top 4 quarterbacks. I think they're all talented and good. Is this the cheapest that Drake May is ever going to be in Dynasty, Evan?
Yes, 100%.
The moment he takes a starting snap, we're going to be like 3 firsts.
Well, okay. Wait.
Well,
let me give it a side. Once Jacoby Brissett is named the week 1 starter, will be the cheapest that Drake May will ever be in Dynasty.
Okay. Yeah, give it like a month, and then Drake May is going to be marginally cheaper. But as soon as he's playing, we're going to see the on-field flashes. He runs more than we give him credit for, and he's big, strong, big arm, like all of the things we want to have a quarterback. He's just throwing to a ragtag group of people. So, Ken, I want you to stack these target earners. Just give me the top 3. Got DeMario, Pop Douglas.
Yeah, no, it's DeMario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, and Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry is quote unquote struggle target, and that's after Drake May gets in there. With regards to the pass catchers in general, Jacoby Brissett, who I actually like-ish. I think if you've got a dynasty, any super flex league, especially for this year, because he's going to play at least 6 games. Do you think? Do they give him like half a year or something? Figure let's say you got 6 weeks with him, then you're going to want him on your best ball team for sure. I don't know if you're going to start him in a redraft, but I think he's good, and he is savvy enough to figure out. I mean, look at what he did with what he had in when he was in Cleveland. He knew who to go to. He knew who to get the ball to, and it was Cooper Moore and Njoku. So I think those are the guys that are going to earn those targets.
Yeah.
KJ Osborne is replacement level. I think Jalen Polk was a guy who did nothing until McMillan got hurt in college. I heard somebody say on other podcasts, this is like a month ago, it's like, he commanded the respect of the room, and he didn't command the respect of anybody. He was getting snaps. He was on the field because he's the guy who was there, who had a scholarship, but that's it. Like, he didn't do anything until, and it was a marginal 1,100 yards. Actually, not terrible. I think Javon Baker is the most interesting of that group. I like Pop Douglas, but I think he's very talented. He just has his Matt Harmon. His route tree is limited. He can do this stuff, and he does that stuff very well, but that's not a game changer and a game breaker who's going to help you win 8, 10, 12 games a year. He's not that. But I think Baker could be. I think the program he's coming from, the success that he had there, I love the attitude that he has. He's got to show it, on the field. So we'll have to see what happens there.
I can see the vision. So let me walk you through the schedule real quick. They start with the Bengals, Seahawks, Jets, Niners, Dolphins, Texans, Jags, Jets. Then November 3rd, they play a little team with a bad defense called the Tennessee Titans. And after the first 2 months of the season, Drake May has been working with the second team with Jalen Polk and Javon Baker on the outside. It's not even they just replaced the quarterback. They replaced the whole offensive skill set. So now you have May behind center, Baker on one side, Polk on the other, Pop in the slot. It's a dream come true.
And they can help.
Drops 40 on the Titans.
And they can help him a lot because they're going to do it anyway. But is by running the ball. I mentioned Kevin Harris earlier. I think with Gibson there, and of course Ramondre, who's just a beast. I mean, Ramondre. I mean, maybe you've forgotten, maybe but look up how big he is. He's massive. He's a massive human being. He's huge, right? And he's.
I'm googling Ramondre Stevenson's size right now.
He's just fantastic. So they can help him out by
6'2", 227. Jesus,
that's ridiculous.
Well, he came out heavier than that.
Yes, he did. He came out almost 240. That's right.
Yeah, he was like 236, 237, somewhere in there. Yep.
So they can help him out by running the ball. But there was a quote, and I don't remember who it was. It may have been Alex Van Pelt, who I don't have much faith in. I'm sorry, I don't. It's just like think about some of the great teams of the past 5 to 8 years. Not one of them, their offense, not one great offense was you think it's like, oh yeah, that was an Alex Van Pelt offense. No one thinks that. No one ever thought that, and it's just because it didn't happen. But somebody said early in the offseason that, and it was a very simple quote, and it was very concise to the point. It's like, we're going to use our young guys. That's what they said in New England. So whatever that means to them, I'm guessing it's like you had mentioned, probably Polk and Baker at some point, without a doubt. The tight end as well. Don't forget about the tight end that they drafted. He'll probably get a shot.
Raheem Bell.
Yeah, so he'll get a shot out there as well. Ramondre, maybe Harris gets out there for a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm hammering on Harris. I think he's very talented. But they said specific. It was a specific, and it was like we want to use our young guys. So that's probably where they're headed. Patriots fans a little spoiled. I don't know if they're going to enjoy 3 wins, 5 wins. Because I don't think it serves them to win 6 or 7 games, right? You want to be, if you're looking to replace a running back, certainly next year is the year, but there's also a couple of players coming out on the offensive line and defensive line. You want to get some of those guys. You need to be in that top 10, right? So I don't think they should be looking at 6, 7, 8 wins. Yahoo, you're going to sell out. They're going to sell out anyway. That team's going to sell out anyway. So don't try too hard down in up in New England to finish in the middle of the pack, because that's not going to be very good for you come draft time. So
Drake May to Tep McMillan is going to feed families. I'm so excited already. It's going to happen.
He will be how's this? So that combination, you'll be able to spend less than $6,000 on DraftKings to get them in your lineup for the entire season.
Yep.
It's going to be so cheap, and it's going to be so good for you.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to our betting lines. So the Buffalo Bills last year were 11-6. Their current line is at 10.5 at plus 130 to the under. We do this every week, but Ken, just so you know, it's over, under, or stay away. Evan, we'll start with you.
Okay. I'm going to lean to the over. I want to say stay away, but I'm going to lean to the over. Mainly because Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. They're going to grind their way to an 11-win season. I think the Dolphins regressed. I think the Patriots regressed somehow from a 4-win team. The Jets are the team that could be surprising in that division, maybe potentially doing that. But yeah, I'll take the over.
All right, Ken, over, under, stay away.
I would stay away from it. I think this is another one with the head coach there is, silently, he's got to do something this year. He does. They've had a lot of talent there, and this year there's a little bit less talent, but they still have Josh, and they're kind of that window's not closing on him. It's not like he's getting older, but I think that coach is like, look, you've come close, you can't get over the hump. They might seek somebody else. So he's going to do everything he can to win every game, but I'd still stay away from that because the teams in the division got better.
Yep.
All of them got better.
I wanted to say over, but let me pull up the Bills' schedule real quick. Oh, nope, I pulled up too much. So, Cardinals win, Dolphins at Dolphins in September. That's a loss. Jags win, Ravens wash, Texans wash, Jets wash, Titans win, Seahawks win, Dolphins win. There's a lot of washes on here because they're playing a first-place schedule, and they get the 49ers, the Rams, the Lions. There's not a lot to like here, so rather than betting against Josh Allen, I'm just going to avoid this one.
Yeah, because if you look at the SOS, the strength of schedule from that Vegas had for them, they're at 23. That's fairly difficult. That's on the back end of things.
Okay. So 1 being the easiest, 32 being the hardest.
Yeah. So if you got like we'll give you the top 3 is the Falcons far and away easiest, Chargers number 2, and then Chicago is number 3. The Jets are 4.
We'll talk about them in a second, but first, the Miami Dolphins. Last year they were 11-6. Ken, where are they out on the strength schedule?
They are at number 8 this year.
All right, their line is
very intriguing. Very intriguing.
Ken, I'll let you go first. Over, under, stay away.
I would go over. I would go over. I mean, for me, when's the last time Vegas kind of knows what they're doing? When's the last time you heard a Vegas hotel say, you know what, we're just not cutting it. We're gonna have to get rid of some rooms. We can't maintain this resort. We gotta backtrack and cut down. They know what they're doing. So I think, especially with that schedule, I think they can get there.
Okay, Evan, over, under, stay away.
Nope, I'm going under. That defense is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
The defense is horrendous, but the offense still has Mike McDaniel. I'm going to go over because they were 11-6 with an already bad defense. They don't need to win every game. They can lose all of them to the Jets and Bills, but with the rest of their schedule being easy, I could see it happening. Let's talk about the Jets. Last year they were 7-10 after Aaron Rodgers played 4 snaps. Now they get a future Hall of Fame quarterback, an upgraded depth chart at quarterback, and an upgraded depth chart basically everywhere on offense. Their line's at -9.5. Evan, over, under, stay away.
Oh yeah, that's a clear over for me. Yeah,
yep.
I think that the defense is absolutely elite. I mean, it's a completely shut down defense. You're wanting everything to do with it. If you're taking defenses in redraft leagues, that work league that still somehow drafts kickers and defenses.
Yep.
Jets defense, you love it. You want to have a piece of it. The offense is going to be efficient. What does Aaron Rodgers do? He runs efficient offenses.
I'm going to start a redraft league that's only defenses. It's 3 people. It'll be everyone on this show. Check sleeper later.
I'm totally in.
10, over, under, stay away.
I'd go over. I think that defense is fantastic, and they upgraded their offensive line. I think you got Garrett Wilson and a whole bunch, 16 running backs that can win. And he's not going to have to, unlike in his last year last couple of years in Green Bay. He's not going to have to do everything, right? Yep. Roger, if he doesn't have to do everything, he's going to be at peak efficiency. So I think.
Yep. After a season of just absolute despair, they were still able to get to 7-10. The floor has raised. The ceiling raises with Aaron Rodgers. I will also go over, which means all three of us agree on the over. It'll be under. And let's talk about the New England Patriots. Last year they were 4-13. They lose a Hall of Fame coach. I don't know if their defense got that much better. Their offense gets better if Drake May is good, but we've seen rookie quarterbacks come out and struggle. Somehow the line is at 5.5, and the over is juiced up to plus 165. Evan, over, under, stay away.
Under. Not doing it. They suck. Move on, Patriots fans. You had your glory days. Stop whining.
Ken, anything nicer to say?
Yeah, so here's something nice. They have the 31st most difficult schedule. They are one of the most difficult in the league. So I was kidding about that being nice. They are going to have a difficult time this year. It's going to be they'll grow as a team. I think the defense is they got a couple of guys back that were hurt last year, so the defense is going to be better. It's not going to be good enough. That defense is not good enough to win, or won't be good enough to win football games. They're going to spend a lot of time on the field. They're going to have a lot of 3-and-outs. Here's one for you if you want to. Is if your league has kickers, take the Patriots field goal kicker, because they're not going to probably score a whole lot of touchdowns. They're going to have to kick from 30, 40, 50 out, like all the time, just to put points on the board. So
will they even move the ball enough though to get their kicker on the field?
Yeah, no, that's fair. Well, they've got the brain trust of Alex Van Pelt to really.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay away from this one purely because I think Drake May is a wild card. If he comes in and does what he showed in college, like he can elevate this offense to a mediocre place. And the Patriots are playing a last place schedule. What's their strength of schedule on there, Ken?
31 out of 32.
Oh, so it's hard?
Yes, very, very hard. It's the next to hardest, which is the everyone's talking about.
How did that happen? Oh, because they're playing
this.
Yeah, they're playing the Bengals. A lot of last place AFC teams got way better.
Yeah, and
Dang,
the Steelers have the most difficult schedule. So good luck, Arthur Smith.
Good luck, Mike. Your fandom will be tested this season.
Here comes Justin Fields, baby.
I have no problem with that. I know a couple of dynasty teams that would love to see him in the lineup.
Oh wait,
all right. Hey, so
Justin Fields.
No, stop it, Mike. No more fun for Mike the rest of the show. Last real bit of content here.
That's so
Buffalo
harsh.
Bills at plus 170 to win that division. Jets at plus 190. Dolphins at plus 200. Which of those three are you taking?
So
because they're all grouped there.
They're all grouped there. The Jets are fourth. The Dolphins have the eighth.
I think I would take the Jets.
Right there, yeah.
Yep.
If
That's
you're
what I
going
was
to give
thinking
me
too.
plus odds on Aaron Rodgers and an elite defense, I'll take that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But while you're staying up late playing NCAA and making bets, go ahead and drink some Dubby. It's a jitterless energy drink. Use code FFRPG at checkout. And also redraft leagues are starting to wind back up. If you're looking for a trophy to pass around your work league or to give to your boss because they keep winning and you can't take it from them, head over to Trophy Smack, use code FFRPG. You get a little bit of money off. A little bit comes back to us. And that's what lets us bring on great guests like Ken. Ken, thank you so much for joining us. We will be sure to Venmo you your 6 cents after this.
Yeah.
Tell people one more time where to find you.
You find me right there. It's right there. It's right there.
All right.
On Twitter, not X. On Twitter, not X. And you can find me on Medium too. It's some stuff that I write is there as well. Just hit me up, DM me if you find the article, Fantasy Football Learning and Earning. You got any questions about how you might approach some of your learning differences to help you make yourself a better fantasy football player, then I'd be happy to help you. Otherwise, just DM me, say hello, and I'll tell you all about when I was doing stand-up back in the day, and I worked with. So I'll give you a quick story about it. I know you got to go, but one thing back, people say, when you did stand-up, it's like, yes, I wasn't funny. I was much younger and better looking back then. I'm better looking only now because I'm older. And the guys that I worked with back then, there's a couple of guys that you might know who I'd see like 2 or 3 times a week. It was Dave Chappelle and Joe Rogan. I'd see them constantly, like all the time, right? I will say they weren't doing the stuff that they're doing now, which I don't necessarily approve of. But those are the good old days, man. Those are a lot of fun. I had a full-time job, was doing comedy at nights, and fantasy football was a future thing for me back then. That was way back. So, yeah, hit me up, say hello. I always love to chat. Thank you very, very much, both of you, for having me on. Mike, appreciate your friendship. Evan, appreciate your support, your friendship as well, and I look forward to speaking to you guys soon.
Thanks for coming on. For the audio-only listeners on Spotify, it's at Ken Flott, KenFlott. Bye, everybody. Evan, I love you.